Okay, our next task is to learn how to position elements around on a page. Hopefully you've done, or you should have done, the previous videos and the previous two chapters. This Web Module 3, we're going to get into what's called CSS Positioning. So take what you've been working on so far, and we're actually going to let's work on our, we'll do it with our resume page right here first. So here's what I want you to do. Open up resume, and at the beginning of the body, before our H1, we're going to create 3 tags called Div Tags. So make 1, 2, 3 of those. Okay, div is a lot like span. Remember span down here? The difference between div and span, well, first of all, div does absolutely nothing, just like span. It does force a line break. Now the reason why is there's 2 types of elements. There's inline elements and block elements. An easy way to differentiate between these are that inline elements are any elements, HTML elements, that don't force a line break after them. So A is an inline element because we had to force a line break to get the text to move on to the next page. Image is an inline element. There are several of these. Span is the inline element that doesn't force a line, that does nothing but allows us to use a class. Block elements they behave a bit differently. They force a line break, and div is basically the block version of a span where it does nothing but force a line break. Why is that important? Alright, I'll show you here next. Let's make some styles for these 3 div tags. So go here to styles.css, and I'm going to put these right up here at the beginning. So these are going to be custom styles. However, instead of using a dot like we did here for these inline elements, we're going to use a pound sign for block elements. So pound sign, we're going to make one called the header. Make another one called navigation. Oops. Another one called main body. Okay, let's go ahead and implement, even though they're empty and we've done nothing with them, let's go ahead and put them in resume.html. And we're going to reference these. Before we use, as you notice here with span, we use class to reference a custom style. Here we're going to use ID to reference a custom style. The difference is that a class can be used multiple times. The same italics can be used many times around a page. Those styles we created for header, navigation, and main body, they can only be used once. Why do we want anything that can only be used once? Well, if you continue on in learning web development and start learning languages like JavaScript, we use IDs in JavaScript to add programming logic to a page. So some elements need to have something unique so that the JavaScript code can refer to that unique element. Anyway, so for now use, actually let's make the next one navigation. Let's make this last one main body. Alright, save that. Here on the page, it's done absolutely nothing because there's nothing in these yet. Alright, here's what I want you to do. Let's break these out and put the content on the page in the appropriate div. So for example, your name, let's put that in the header. Whoops. Up here in header. Here's our links. Let's take those, put them in navigation. Have those in. Here in the main body, let's put everything else. Alright, let's tab things in the way they should be. So our nesting looks right. Okay, that all looks good. Refresh. Again, what's happened? Absolutely nothing. Why? Because although we've made 3 div, again div stands for divided section, although we've divided the page up into 3 sections, we haven't done anything to style those sections yet. So the browser still just assumes that we want them displayed vertically. But we don't. We want to move these things around on the page. Now it helps to see where these sections are by giving a background color to them. Now this is something we didn't cover in the last video. let's go ahead and make a background color. Let's make it, I don't know, we can make it black, I guess. No, background, let's make this gray. And even it could be like a light gray. Light gray, that'll do right there. Let's give it also a border color. And let's make the border color. Now we can actually do color, width, and everything all at once. So we'll say 1px for the width, space, black for the color, solid for the style. Alright, let's save that. And now we refresh the page and look. Here's that section. It's definitely done something different. So gray background, black border. The content, I don't like my name being so close to the edge. So from the last video, think of the box model portion. What attribute should I set to get Mark, Keith, or my name further away from the edge? Hopefully you remembered padding. And I don't want to adjust the padding everywhere, just the padding on the left for now. So let's give it an extra 10 pixels away from the left. That's a bit better. Okay, navigation. Let's go ahead and copy our background color and border for both navigation and main body. Save them. Again, this just lets us see each section, how it's separate from the others. Now, if we want to move these sections around, we first need to tell the browser that we're no longer going to simply place things or position things vertically down the page. We want the ability to scoot them around wherever we want. So there's an attribute called position, and we're going to set it to what's called absolute. So absolute says ignore the location or ignore any other divs or content around this div and pretend like they don't exist, and just position wherever the first place is on the page it can fit. So if each of these sections are going to no longer see each other and ignore each other, what's going to happen here now when I save and refresh this? What's going to happen, hopefully you guessed, they're all going to overlap over each other. So they're all overlapping because they don't see that each other exists. So here's what we're going to do next. With this one, and if you're wondering, by the way, where the others are, they're all, because main body is the last div on the page over here, it's on top of or covering up the other two. So this header was put down first, and now that it's no longer stretching all the way the width of the page, my name is just back behind here. Same with navigation. It was put on top of my name, so navigation's covering my name, and now this section's covering both navigation and my name because it's on top of them. So come back here to styles. Let's edit this one first. We're going to say pin this this section from the top 5 pixels, from the left 5 pixels, from the right 5 pixels, and I don't want to say bottom because what's going to happen is imagine you're putting pinning a quilt or something on the wall and you're stretching it out. You're sticking a pin basically 5 pixels from the left, top, and right. I don't want the header to go all the way to the bottom. I only want it to be about 125 pixels high. So rather than specify bottom, I'm going to specify the attribute called height and say tell it to be 125 pixels high. So it'll be pinned 5 from the top, but then it'll extend 125 pixels down from there. Refresh, and there you see it, 5, 5, 5, and it's pinned all the way over, even though my name only occupies a bit of space right here. So let's move navigation down. What do we want to do with navigation? Well, we want it to be from the left 5 pixels so it'll line up with the header. But the question for you is, how far do we want it from the top? Okay, think about this for a second. The height of the top is 125 pixels. But don't forget, we pinned it 5 pixels from the top. So now we're up to 130. And then we want 5 pixels between navigation and the top, so add 5 more, that puts us at 135. However, the border right here takes up 1 pixel on each side. So this 125 pixel is only referring to the space inside the border and not the border itself. So I actually need 137 pixels to include the border to space this the right amount down. So I know it's tough to see right there, but let's do the same thing here with the main body and you'll see what I'm talking about. Also, we're not quite done. 5 pixels from the left, 137 from the top. What else do we want to specify? Should the left navigation go all the way up and down the side here? Usually it should. So what do we want to specify? Height? Well, what I want to happen is what's happening with the top, where as I resize my window, notice how the header section automatically resizes with it. It's because I stuck a pin in it 5 pixels from the right. So no matter how wide this browser window is, it's always going to be 5 pixels from the right. I kind of want the same thing going up and down. I want that left nav to always be pinned 5 pixels from the bottom. So rather than specify height, I'm going to say bottom 5 pixels. Lastly, how wide do we want this to be? Well, I want it to be static. When I move and resize my page, I don't want the left navigation to get bigger or smaller. I want the main body to do that. So, rather than specify right, I'm going to specify width. And let's set it to 125 pixels. Alright, refresh this and you'll see that section's gone down to the bottom and it's 125 pixels over. Oh, oops, no it's not because I forgot a colon right there. Save that, refresh, there we go, now it's 125 pixels. So I hope you're seeing a pattern. When it comes to absolute positioning, although there are 6 total attributes you could set, top, bottom, height, left, right, and width, we'll only ever set 4 of those attributes. Because if we set all 6, then 2 pairs of them are going to conflict. For example, if I were to set here on navigation, top, bottom, and height, then not all 3 can be met. Because if I change the height of the page, how can I have it still be 5 pixels from the bottom, yet be the exact same height that we've set it to? It can't. And it's going to break our code. So I have to either pick. I'm going to set top. And then if I want it to automatically resize, I'm going to have to set bottom. If I don't want it to resize, if I want it to stay static, kind of like the header does when I move up and down, then I'm going to set bottom instead of height. And with the top, I've done the opposite. Okay, if I want the width to stay fixed, I can't set width and right, because as soon as I change the width, it's going to have to either change the width or it's going to have to no longer be pinned 5 pixels from the right. So I only set 2 of those 3 attributes. Left, right, or left and width, or left and right. Alright, main body, let's do this one now. We want this one to automatically resize both left and right, and also up and down. So, which 4 of the 6 attributes you've learned so far are we going to set for main body? I'm going to just go ahead and pause the video right now and see if you can figure this out and position the main body so that it fits perfectly aligned with the other 2 sections we've placed on the page so far. Okay, if you couldn't do it, no problem. That's what this video is for. What we're going to do is start by setting top. Okay, we want this section to line up with the navigation section, and we set the navigation section to 137 pixels. So 137. We want it to automatically resize up and down. So are we going to pin it to the bottom or set a height? Hopefully you said we're going to pin it to the bottom, and it's going to be 5 pixels from the bottom. Okay, we want the section to start adjacent here to the left navigation, and then stay always on at that point, but then we want to automatically resize left to right as the window gets wider and thinner. So what are we going to set? Hopefully you said left. Now this one we're going to have to do a calculation again. Navigation is 125 pixels wide, plus 5 pixels from the left, 130, plus we want 5 pixels in between main body and navigation, that puts us at 135, plus, since there's a 1 pixel border around left navigation, we need to add a pixel for each side, which gets us to 137 again. Lastly, do we want to set right or width? Since we want it to resize, we better not set width because the width is the one we want to change whenever we resize it. Instead, let's pin it 5 pixels from the right by saying right 5 pixels. Save, refresh, there's our content. Now notice the section automatically adjusts. Now our content is spilling off the bottom here. There's ways we can fix that, but it's going to be beyond the scope of what we want to cover right now. But notice When I go up and down, left nav and main body automatically resize their height. When I go right to left, the header and main body automatically resize. So I've only showed you one type of CSS-based positioning on a page. There are many different ways to do this, and it goes well beyond the scope of this class. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to grab what's called a Bootstrap themed website that takes care of all of this positioning for you, and all you have to do is edit the code inside of it. So for now, it would be good for you to practice though with what we've learned. See if you can edit and modify a few of these things, and maybe make some wider, make some taller, change background colors. I'll show you a few other little tricks in the next video.